Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today I want to talk about a topic that has nothing to do with reading, but it is a pretty personal topic and I have a lot of content of it on my own social media, obviously because it's a topic pertaining to me. And there's a lot of negative discourse around it, especially from people in the comments. And so I thought, you know what, I have been living with food intolerances for quite a few years now. And I don't know, I think I have a lot of experience with it, and I'm kind of disappointed with how the discussions on social media are going about it and how little people know and respect the problems that somebody who is food intolerant has. So I thought, you know what, it is time to talk about it. I tried to do this video pretty early on in my YouTube channel and I couldn't do it. I got too emotional, but I am a lot more grounded now. It took me mentally quite a few years to actually accept the situation with, I think, the comments from people on social media make it a lot harder to actually accept it for yourself. So let's talk about my life with two food intolerances, how I got the diagnoses, the problems with that, how my life works out since getting the diagnoses, and the problems I see in my own life and on social media, and maybe a little bit of like something we can take away from the whole situation. So first of all, let's talk about what do I have and how did I find out what was the way I went about it, which was a pretty bad way to go about it. So I'm fructose intolerant and I'm gluten intolerant. So both in combination suck. That's just the first thing to say, it sucks. I first found out I'm fructose intolerant. I found that out in my third year in university. So I was 21, going 22 when I found that out. So I have lived with that for 9 years now. It took me 2 years to get a diagnosis, mostly because I was super ashamed of the symptoms and I just didn't go to a doctor. I was young, inexperienced, and there wasn't a lot of discourse online about topics like that, at least not that I had seen, and so I was just really ashamed of the symptoms I had. Like with fructose intolerant, the main symptoms that I had was like half an hour after eating and maybe sometimes even while eating. I would get a lot of pain and then I would get bad diarrhea. That's just how it is. And that would last for a couple of hours, and afterwards I would be extremely, nearly faint. Like I was really, I lost a lot of energy in the process. Obviously you lose a lot of water, so you have to do a lot of drinking, and there isn't really much that can help you. You just have to go through the symptoms. You can't stop them once you have eaten the wrong thing. And yeah, I had a lot of those symptoms, so I stopped going out of the house because I just couldn't go anywhere. I would get sick every time I ate something. I tried a lot of different things on my own because I was a firm believer of I can fix this myself, which I couldn't. But yeah, it took me maybe a year to actually go to the doctor and start getting a diagnosis, and then it took nearly another year to actually get a diagnosis. We tried a lot of different medications in the process. I got a colonoscopy and a gastroscopy, both to try to find out what I had, which both showed signs of infection, but they didn't give any indication what was wrong with me. And then as pretty much like a last chance test, they did a fructose test on me, and I actually got sent home in the middle of the test because I had such bad, the numbers were so high that it didn't make any sense to keep me there because I would be sick. And the doctor was like, you don't need to be sick in the doctor's office. You can go home and just be sick at home because really we don't need to let you suffer anymore here. And that was the day I finally found out that I was fructose intolerant. 2 years too late, let's be honest. I actually did not get my bachelor because I was so sick by that point that I just couldn't go to the library anymore. So yeah, I didn't get my university degree because I was sick and I didn't go to the doctor when I should have been. And then my gluten intolerance diagnoses came a couple of years ago. I think around like 3 or 4 years ago maybe. That one took also over a year to get, mostly because I was already fructose intolerant, and when I went to the doctor and I was like, I have new symptoms that don't fit my fructose intolerant, also I know what to eat to not get sick. The doctor was not incompetent, but he did actually tell me after I was diagnosed, he did tell me that his view was clouded by the fact that I had a diagnosis already and that he was confused why I was seeking a new diagnosis. And so he did tell me that, and he did admit to that, which was really annoying in the end, but I'm young, you know, people don't want to diagnose you when you're young, as something I have learned in the process. But yeah, gluten intolerance was a whole different set of symptoms. I looked pregnant the whole time. I have to say, I live in Germany, we eat bread every day, or at least I used to eat bread every day, so I would make myself sick every day without noticing. I looked pregnant the whole way through. I got asked if I was pregnant. It was really uncomfortable because I don't want children, so it was a really uncomfortable feeling getting asked that. Nothing fit clothes-wise. If I eat gluten, I will be sick for 3 days, and the main symptom, other than diarrhea, vomiting, like feeling sick, having no energy, I had the feeling that I had to go to the toilet the whole time. I didn't need to, but I felt like I had to, which means you cannot get away from a toilet because you feel like you need one at all times. So I stopped going outside of my home. I went the smallest rounds I could go with my dog, which my partner did all of the big rounds and I did the small ones. I always had to look up where are toilets. I could never drive anywhere. I would get really sick once I left the house because the panic would start rising, and then the panic would make myself more sick. And so I had a lot of symptoms that just can't be explained. So they sent me back to get another colonoscopy. Another gastroscopy, because we were pretty sure that it's not the colon. We were sure that it was the stomach. And they sent me back to get that. And the doctor who did the gastroscopy actually said to me, have you ever tried not eating gluten? That was like a year in, didn't know what to do. And she was just like, have you tried just stop eating gluten and see what happens, because she has seen the symptoms and she feels like it might be a gluten intolerance. I stopped eating gluten that day, and 2 weeks after that I was like a new human being. So that was how I got diagnosed actually. I then went back to the doctor, the original one, and told him what the doctor told me, and that I stopped eating gluten and that I feel like a whole new human being. And he was like, okay, we don't need to do the blood test then, because you're already not eating gluten and you can only detect gluten intolerance by blood. Same goes for celiacs if you are actively eating gluten, and we didn't want to make me sick again, so I never got the test done. But if I eat gluten, I get sick. So the diagnosis stands. But yeah, that was the second time around. Thankfully, I have a remote working job, so I didn't have to go into an office, so I didn't have a problem with working. But if you don't have a remote job, it can be really, really problematic with work, actually. But yeah, those 2 times were like how hard it was getting diagnosed. I have no idea where the intolerances came from. I'm pretty sure that I was fructose intolerant a lot longer, but with lesser symptoms, because I do have a few memories of being a teenager and getting violently sick after drinking iced tea, for example, which I'm thinking now that might be the fructose. But there's no way to actually, know that. And then with the gluten intolerance, I'm pretty sure I got that because I took a rheumatic painkiller because I had an infection in my wrist, and the doctor gave me the painkiller without any stomach preservatives. Like you get those tablets so you don't get stomach ulcers through the pain medication, because that is what can happen with pain medication. He didn't give me those, so I took the really, really heavy pain medication without any thing to make sure my stomach wouldn't be problematic because of that. And my symptoms started 2 days after starting the pain medication. So I'm personally pretty sure that my gluten intolerance was triggered by that, but obviously I can't prove that. Like, there's no way to show that that was the problem, but it was a pretty heavy coincidence, if we're gonna be honest. So for a quick explanation with what gluten intolerance and fructose intolerance is. Gluten intolerance is I can't eat gluten. Gluten is in wheats. A lot of our manufactured food has gluten in it. It is used to thicken sauces, and like soy sauce, for example, is a big thing that has gluten in it because it has wheat in it. Like, pretty much a lot of our stuff has wheat in it and gluten, and so yeah, I can't eat any of that. And then with fructose intolerance, I can't eat fructose on its own. There are different sugars. Fructose is a sugar, so there's, for example, fructose, glucose, dextrose is one sugar. So there are different types of sugars, and I can't eat fructose. But I can eat fructose if there is more of another sugar in the thing I'm eating. So normal household sugar, for example, is 50% fructose and 50% glucose. I have a problem with that. I need more glucose than fructose in something. So if you look at the description of food and you see glucose fructose syrup, I can eat that. But if it says fructose glucose syrup, I can't eat that because the ratio of fructose to glucose is off, and that is a fact for everything I eat, which makes eating really complicated because, for example, all of fruit contains fructose, but not in the same measure. Vegetables contain fructose. A lot of people don't know that, but pretty much everything you eat contains some type of sugar in some amount. So I can't, for example, eat broccoli, cauliflower, stuff like that. I can't eat that. My stomach can handle that. Tomatoes, 50-50 chance if I'm able to eat them or not, for example. There's a lot of different stuff I can and can't eat with the fructose intolerance, and it is really hard to find out what you can eat and what you can't eat. But that is what's wrong with me in the end. Now, let's get to how life works if you can't eat a lot of food. But I'm not having an allergy, so obviously I won't have an allergic reaction. I'm just gonna feel really sick. Life with 2 food intolerances is really complicated. It was easier when I only was fructose intolerant because there was a lot more I could eat. I'm also not somebody who likes to cook, which makes life a lot harder, let's be honest. But what I have learned over the time is that people take sugar intolerances not seriously at all. Most people don't know they exist. So if you tell somebody I can't eat fructose, they have no idea what it is. They have no idea that there is a type of person out there that can't eat that. Most people just know diabetics, and obviously the diabetics have to be careful with sugar. But I'm not diabetic, so people, I have a hard time trusting people. If you've been around on the world for a while, you may know that people react really strangely if you want a sugar-free drink. So I drink Coke Zero, for example, but if you go into a restaurant and sometimes bars and stuff, people look at you really weirdly, or they used to. It has gotten a lot better. But when I got diagnosed, they used to be really weird about demanding a sugar-free drink, and I was definitely afraid that somebody would give me a normal Coke because they thought, why would you drink a Coke without sugar? That actually has happened, so it's not something I'm imagining. It is something that I have actually lived through, So it is hard. You stop trusting people with your food, which is obviously sucks because our society revolves around food. So pretty much every time you meet people, you eat something, if you are out and about, you need a little snack, you want something to drink. And because of life revolving around that, I just got into my own shell. I stayed home. I didn't go out with people because I felt like I couldn't safely eat outside of my own home. I don't it sounds really harsh, but I don't trust other people's cooking. I won't eat something that I haven't seen the ingredients to because I cannot be sure that I can actually eat it. For fructose intolerance, there are tablets you can take, but my fructose intolerance is so bad that they aren't 100%. fail safe, and I have to pay for them myself. It is not something you can get from your doctor in Germany. We have pretty good health insurance, but for some reason food intolerances don't fall underneath the umbrella of medication, so I can take tablets that make digesting fructose for me easier, and they make it possible for me to eat like a slice of cake or something like that, but they are really expensive and I need a lot of them, and there is like a daily limit you can take of them. So I have to be really careful and think about using them. So in normal life, I don't. If I go on vacation or know I will go to like a birthday party or something, I will take them with me. I will use them so I can eat a slice of cake or something like that. Or when we're on vacation, I will take them for every meal, just because obviously if I eat in a restaurant, I can't be sure what is in the food. And explaining a fructose intolerance to somebody is nearly impossible, because people obviously don't know how much fructose is in something. Like, you can't know that. You have to do a lot of research to actually have any idea of that. So it makes it really hard to go into restaurants and stuff. So that made life hard enough already. I was vegan for most of being fructose intolerant. I made it work. I started being vegan when I tried to find out what was wrong with me before I was diagnosed. So I was vegan for a lot of years, I think 7 or 8 years in total. I stopped being vegan when I got the gluten intolerance diagnosis, because a lot of the stuff you can get with protein that is vegan has gluten in it, which was a big problem for me. And yeah, due to the food intolerances, I have like fluctuated a lot in weight. I lost a lot of weight when I got diagnosed with the fructose intolerance, because in the beginning I could only tolerate chips and fries. That was the only thing I could eat for months at a time in the beginning, because my stomach was so like, it just hurt. Everything I eat hurt. So I stopped eating most foods and I lost a lot of weight because of that. And so it took me a time to get back into normal eating and gaining the weight back. And then when the gluten intolerance came around, I lost all appetite. I lost the will to eat, to be honest. Depression goes along with food intolerances. That is actually something I didn't know. That was explained to me, that if you have to stop eating so much of the food that is normal to eat, that oftentimes you go into like a depressive episode. It's not like a diagnosed depression, but you go into like a depressive episode because you miss out on so much and you have to stop eating so much of what made your meals. And I did have that, and I stopped eating anything substantial for a while because I just couldn't bring myself to eat anything and then be sick again, or it is hard to adapt to having to stop eating so much. And so when I got the gluten intolerance diagnosis, I at some point actually stopped being vegan. I'm a vegetarian now. If I go on holidays, I become a pescatarian. I will eat seafood, fish, stuff like that when I go on holiday, because it's just too hard for me to get any food when I'm outside of my own home that is vegetarian and doable with the fructose intolerance and the gluten intolerance. It's just nearly impossible. So I had to make the decision, like, either starve myself or stop being vegan. And so I did decide to stop being vegan for the sake of my own health and my mental health, to be honest, because that wasn't looking good for a time there. So yeah, I mean, all in all, you can live a pretty like normal life with it if you can accept that if you go somewhere you have to bring your own food, or if you want to find a restaurant. It can be hard depending on where you live. I live in Berlin, but sadly I live on the outskirts, so where I live there isn't anything gluten-free. But if you are living in like the middle of the city, you have it a little bit easier restaurant-wise. But I have exactly one restaurant in like the radius where they actually bring you food, and they have one thing I can eat that is gluten-free. So it is like harder to participate. I have a lot of luck that we have friends who are fine with eating gluten-free for the evening if they come around and we make food together, so that is fine. I don't cook together with my partner. I think that is something really unique for my situation. We eat completely separate. We buy groceries separate. because I wouldn't ever force somebody to eat with the limitations that I have on food. So my partner eats his normal diet and I eat mine. So we might cook rice together or potatoes or something like that, but we maybe eat 1% of the time we eat the same thing. Otherwise we always eat something different because it's just not worth it for him to not eat what he wants because I can't eat it. That doesn't work for us. But yeah, I think it makes it really unique that we are married but we don't eat together. No, most of the time, just when we go to restaurants and I can actually eat something there. So that is how life is looking like with that. I still had meet a lot of people who don't understand the problems that come with it, and if I go out to the cinema or something, I always feel like a burden because I have to ask so many questions about the food. I had an experience where I went to the cinema and I asked if the nachos and the cheese sauce were gluten-free, and the person was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I would have to look, but it takes a lot of time to look. And then she expectantly looked at me as if I would be saying oh no, you don't have to look, but she has to look for me. I have to be 100% sure I can eat it. And so I was like, no, you have to look please for me. I need to be sure. And then she went and it took 5 minutes, and behind us people were queuing up to get their food. And I felt super bad, but I feel like I'm allowed to ask questions to be safe when I'm outside of my own home. But yeah, not everybody is fine with that. I do get weird looks every time we go into a bakery or something like that, when we are out and about and my partner wants to go eat somewhere. I oftentimes just don't eat anything and don't drink anything because there isn't a lot I can drink or eat outside of my own home. And people do tend to look really weirdly, and I have already gotten comments why I only eat so little. I got asked in a restaurant why I would only eat a side dish, and it's awkward. It's really, really awkward, and it's not nice to have to explain yourself to everybody, but you have to, otherwise you can't stay safe. And even then, you're not always safe. Accidents happen. There's no guarantee that you'll be safe. I had tough situations that weren't nice, but I can't change it, so I have to learn to live with it. Now, let's talk about some of the problems I have with the whole thing, personal problems, and then after that we're gonna talk about the social media problems. The biggest problems I had with adapting to eating gluten-free and fructose-free is that I struggled a lot with panic attacks. When it got really bad before I was diagnosed, I couldn't really leave my house, and so the effect was that once I was fine again and at home I didn't have any symptoms anymore, when I made sure to eat how I should be eating, I started to get panic attacks outside of the home, because as soon as I was too far away from a toilet I started panicking. That took a lot of time to work through. Probably would have been better to go to therapy, but it is hard to go to therapy when you have to leave your house to go to therapy, but you can't leave your house because you need the therapy to leave the house. It was kind of a really bad situation in the beginning, but I did work through it on my own. So I can now drive hours in the car without a problem. That is fine. The only thing I'm still struggling with is public transportation, because you don't have a toilet at every stop. So if I start feeling panicky, I can't get out, and even if I can get out, there is no guarantee that there will be a toilet. And that is what makes it easier for me when I know that there's a toilet. If I plan on going anywhere, I will be the first one to Google where the toilets are, where the public toilets are. Doesn't matter where I'm going, I have to know for sure. It is something that is burned into me, and probably something that won't change, because I need the security blanket of where can I go if I have a problem. And there will be problems. It always happens. You can never be 100% sure that something is fructose free, or that I can. With gluten it's easier because I can just not eat something that has gluten in it, but with fructose it's a lot more complicated, because sometimes I tolerate something and then the next day I won't, because obviously it's not a perfect science. The sugar contents variate, so yeah, it's problematic. The fructose is more problematic actually than the gluten for me personally. So yeah, I'm always vigilant when I leave the house. It is burnt into me. I can't change that. It has made my life really hard the last couple of years, but I'm finally at a point where I can leave my house without any panic attacks, and I can do short journeys through public transports and long ones with a car at every time of day, even after I've eaten something, with what like that wasn't doable like a year ago even. So yeah, there are problems, but I am overcoming them with time. And now talk about social media. There is so many people that are still telling you on social media that people eat that way because they want to be complicated. We should just stop and just eat normally. It is really bad. If you look at profiles of people who are informing people about gluten-free things, for example, it's less with fructose because there is just less online about it. But with gluten, especially people who have accounts about being celiac, they get so many hateful comments. It is crazy. I could never do that. I'm gonna be honest, I could never have an account like that. I don't want to read the stuff. But if I go into those accounts, because obviously I take inspiration from them as well, even though I am not celiac and I don't have the allergy problems connected with celiac and the autoimmune problems, I do have a lot of problems with gluten. And so sometimes I read the comments because I want to get tips, and then a lot of times it is really negative. And it is annoying. I think the fact that there are so many people out there that cannot imagine being in the body of somebody who cannot eat something is crazy. They behave as if it's a choice, like it's not a choice if you want to live life. And they behave like it is a choice, and I'm getting really angry about that every time I read it, because I feel like you can be so happy that you never had the problem of not being able to eat something or feeling really sick because you ate something, and going onto social media and like in the comments of people who are suffering with something like food intolerances or celiacs or food allergies, and like making it out to be a choice. It's just so heinous. I cannot imagine the life you have to live to be somebody like that, because the people are already suffering. It is not fun. No matter what people will tell you, it is not fun to be like, to have the choice taken away from you what you can and can't eat. Like it is like it is. Like the choice is taken away from you. And even the things you can eat are incredibly expensive for gluten intolerant people. Like buying gluten-free bread is so expensive, and not everybody has the money to afford that type of diet. And so reading people being mean and being unable to have empathy for other people, it is crazy. And they aren't few and far between. They are a lot underneath those posts. So if you have never had like problems with food, please try to imagine how it would be if somebody came around the corner and was like, you can never eat fast food again if you like fast food, if you like it. I have a sweet tooth, a really big sweet tooth, and I can't eat, like there are a few sweet things I can eat, but they are so few, and it is hard. I love a good mocktail. I love fruit juices. I can't have any of those. And it is hard. It sucks. And then people giving you comments like, oh, just drink it. It's not going to be that problematic. No, it is going to be that problematic. And the fact that so many people cannot imagine that is crazy to me. And I get angry about it every time. So please, if you are on social media and you have commented things like that in the past, don't. We don't do it because we want to. We do it because we have to. We do not have a choice to eat like we do. So please don't make it out like we have a choice. It is so horrible to be like that and to put people down who already have a hard time. So yeah, it's not fair. Like it's not a joke. It's not for fun. We don't like being the complicated one. We don't like having to ask extra questions and maybe like, have to ask if there's any way to get an extra meal or a different meal. I have to read allergy sheets every time I leave the house to be sure what is in the food and what is not in the food. It is not always good, like documented well, so sometimes I just cannot eat somewhere if I don't have the documentation of the food. It makes life harder, and it is not a choice. And I need to get that through people's heads, because people like behave so weirdly about food intolerances. It is crazy. Yeah. So let's cap the video where it is. I have talked a long time now. I think one positive thing I can talk about is I actually helped somebody get their daughter diagnosed, because she was in my, like when I did my work training to get the job that I now have. I had somebody in my class who had a daughter, has a daughter, and she had like some trouble with food, and she heard me talking about not being able to eat certain things, and so we got talking, and it turned out her doctor actually is fructose intolerant. And I was like, when she told me what the problems were, I was like, get tested for fructose, go to a doctor, tell them somebody told you who is fructose intolerant, they have the same symptoms, get her the test directly so she doesn't have to suffer anymore. She went, got the test, it came back positive, and so I at least helped one person get like a really quick diagnosis. It took a couple of weeks and she had her diagnosis, which was super, super quick. And I was really glad that I could do that, because up to that point, I didn't have my diagnosis for long, and being able to help somebody felt really, really good, especially since it was a little girl. I think she was 5 or 6 at the time, which is really hard time to find out that you can't eat all of the things that your friends can eat, you know. So I was glad I could help with that. And yeah, I don't know, it makes life annoying. You know, obviously it doesn't make my life expectancy shorter. It's not like I have a permanent pain or something like that, you know. I always say like I have a lot of health problems, but none of them are like life shortening. But that doesn't mean that they aren't annoying, and that doesn't mean that I can't be upset about them at times. You know, don't let yourself be fooled by people who are always happy even though they have health problems. We all have our moments, and I, like every couple of months, I have a couple of weeks where I just don't want to eat because I'm so over it. But obviously that's not it's not a choice I can make, so I just have to get through it and get out at the other side. But it can be hard mentally. Let's just be honest. Like, not being able to fully function in society when it comes to food is a really, really, really hard thing, because everything is so centered around food. And so, yeah, please, if you know somebody who has problems with food, be it intolerances, celiacs, allergies, be gentle with them. Have patience if they have to ask a lot of questions, if they have to make changes. Please be careful with them, because it can be really isolating and it can be hard at times. And it is nice if you have people around you who understand and who make sure that you are safe when you are outside of your own home, or if you bring people into your own home and they have to eat gluten-free like for one day. Be patient with that. We have to eat that all day, every day, and it's not fun a lot of days. Gluten-free stuff can be really disgusting, just gonna be honest. So it can be hard. So yeah, if you know somebody, please have patience. Or even if you see somebody post about it online, just don't leave mean comments. It's not fair, it's not fun, and it makes life harder that is already hard at certain points. And we really don't need that. So yeah, I hope that clears up a little bit about me, because it is a big part of my life, and I did just want to share that for everybody who's interested, how this is working, and yeah, what life is like with 2 food intolerances and being pretty like living a life where you have pretty strict restrictions on what you can eat and can't eat. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I try to answer them. And yeah, I hope that was fine to have like a non-book related video here. And if you want to see more about books and my life, you can come back and watch a little bit of the vlogs I post here. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good day, and bye bye.